right, everyone, welcome back into another NBA props video. Going to be touching on all the top prop bets that we have for this really big Wednesday slate. Let's go ahead and get into it. So instantly, the nice thing about this slate compared to kind of the opening night slate is that there's a lot of injuries in which are causing what I view as good values, especially in the sense of whether you guys are betting on traditional sportsbook or betting on PrizePicks or Underdog as well. These are going to be spots where I think we are getting edges regardless due to these injuries and really due to it being the start of the season. I want to start out here with the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to see that they have some kind of key contributors out, especially with the bigs. It might not seem like much, but to me, it kind of is. So first and foremost, obviously, Mikal Bridges not there with the team. He's now in New York. We've known that for quite some time, but also they're going to be without Sharp, who is one of their bigs, and also going to be without Watford, which should create some edges here. So let's talk about Cam Thomas to start. So not massive, I wouldn't say, but at the same time, good enough. So you look at his per 36 production with Mikal Bridges off the court last year. He did average 28 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists, and had a very solid usage rate. Averaged around 20.6 shot attempts. So I don't mind him to get over 27.5. For his points and rebounds, that should be a decent edge in general, or you could just do his points, 24.5. Now, obviously, any player can go cold and not get there, but I would say, typically speaking, he's going to be able to get this over. Against Atlanta, I'm not too worried really about any matchups just yet, but I'm not too worried about that matchup. Then looking at Nick Claxton as well. Nick Claxton is someone that I like a decent amount in this one. He should obviously play a lot. At least that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting him to get around 30 minutes in this game, maybe closer to 36 minutes. That would be pretty huge. And if we look at some of the lines that we're getting from him, I just feel like they're too low. The one that I have highlighted here is going to be his points and rebounds, which, yeah, this seems too low. So the average sportsbook line would have this at 21.5, which I would agree is the correct line. So PrizePicks to have this at 20.5 to me seems to be way too low. You'll get his per 36 production with those two bigs off the court. Averaged 15.3 points and 10.5 rebounds. So really, regardless, those should both be good. But in general, I still think that this is a good bet either way. Another spot where we're going to get a lot of kind of usage opened up to go to other players is looking at Toronto. Now, obviously, last year, Toronto had a pretty big shuffle up of kind of what they were looking to do and who they were looking to acquire. Went out of their way to get Emmanuel quickly. Obviously, they trade away Pascal Siakam as well. And now looking at the opening night game with RJ Barrett, who is someone that they acquired last year. He's going to be out in this game. Kelly Olynyk's out. Bruce Brown is out. All players that did play a decent amount for them. You look at Jordan Nwora, who actually got a bunch of minutes last year with all three of those guys out. They're all out. And so that, to me, is creating some of the best value that we probably will get in general on this slate with Emmanuel quickly and with Jakob Poeltl. To me, guys, Scotty Barnes is being properly valued right now. I don't think we need to touch on him, but to me, Emmanuel quickly is going to be highly appealing. Now, he does get a tough matchup going against Cleveland. I get that. That might cause people to be a little bit too hesitant, I would say, on his bets. But really across the board, he's someone that I think we should be looking at in this one. So looking at his per 36 production with all those players off the court that I just listed, he averaged a 29% usage rate, 27.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, and 9 assists per 36 with those players off the court. So really, across the board, I do expect him to have a good game. The 9 assists is pretty appealing. We see the line at 7.5. That's going to be a little bit low. Again, the one concern is going to be really the matchup. And I think that's why his lines aren't as high as I would think they would be. And so to me, and again, the matchup's not the best, but Jakob Poeltl to me is one of the better values that we get. And he is someone that I don't know if we can truly trust to get like the per 36 minutes that I'm kind of looking at with these stats, probably closer to 30 minutes, maybe gets into foul trouble. Obviously, that would hurt. I don't want to look into that kind of stuff too early on in the season. But going against Jared Allen and then going against Evan Mobley, that does have me a little bit concerned that he could get into foul trouble potentially. And to me, that's more of the way that he wouldn't get there. But right now, looking at the bets that we are getting on him, I kind of like them all. So per 36 production, averaged 19.4 points per 36 with all those players off the court last year, 16.9 rebounds, and 3.4 assists. Now, we are only getting points and rebounds props for him right now. Not really sure why PrizePicks currently has this points line at 11. That doesn't really make sense. At the same time, I really don't know why Underdog would have his rebounds at 8 as well. To me, those are pretty good values. It should be at the 0.5 because we look at the average sportsbook data. They're basically saying that those are 50-50. I'm saying that those are not. I'm saying those are going to be good edges, assuming that he gets those minutes. Personally, I would rather do his points, rebounds, and assists because there are random games where he'll get like 5 assists and the rebounds won't be as high. But regardless, I think we're getting immense value here with Jakob Poeltl, assuming that he doesn't get into foul trouble. And just real quickly, I do want to call out that the NBA cheat sheet will be out hopefully tomorrow, but I would assume tomorrow. It's going to be set up just the same way as the NFL cheat sheet is. So there'll be the typical player props cheat sheets in there, as well as kind of the projections for that slate as well. Try to working in some like starting lineup tab, some NBA news tab as well. But what I hope to have out to you guys tomorrow, I have all the data already set up and everything. It just needs to be presentable. That should be all out tomorrow. Just wanted to call that out. And so now let's go ahead and get into the Milwaukee Bucks. So the Milwaukee Bucks are going to be starting their season without Chris Middleton, which is annoying as a Bucks fan. What I pray for as a Bucks fan is just enter the playoffs healthy is really what I want. One playoff series with Chris Middleton and Giannis where their team is healthy going into the playoffs. Just one. That's all I want. We had championship with Giannis getting injured in that span as well. It's just like just one postseason where everyone's healthy. That'd be awesome. But anyways, Chris Middleton being out, that does open up a lot. The roster didn't really change that much. You're swapping like Beasley for Gary Trent Jr., who I do think that's an upgrade. If anything, it's going to be a push. So not really that many changes. And so I think a lot of the lines that we are getting here for the Bucks are honestly too low. The biggest one to me, though, is going to be Brook Lopez with his points, rebounds, and assists of 17.5. So I do wonder how many minutes he's going to play. But last year, he was typically seeing around 36 minutes per game. Well, 30 to 36 minutes per game. So kind of looking at the per 36 production with Chris Middleton off the court, he averaged 14.5 points, 6 rebounds, 1.8 assists. But a key factor here as well is that the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be without Joel Embiid. And so obviously that creates probably a lot of rebounds there for Brook Lopez. And then the issue is that Paul George is going to be out. So there is a great chance that this game ends up in a blowout. Do you want to call it Giannis is currently questionable as well? If Giannis were to sit, I'm not expecting him to. That would just mean that Brook Lopez would be more of a lock to go off and that line would go up a little bit more. Also worth calling out with Dame Lillard. So Dame Lillard, his points line does seem to be a little bit too low at 25. This is going to be a great matchup for him as well. Again, the issue is that this game could end up in a blowout. That's going to be the concern. He did average 27.4 points per 36 with Chris Middleton off the court last year. And then Giannis and his points do seem to be a little bit too low as well. His per 36 production was 30.3. And again, he should be able to go off in this matchup. On the flip side, we have a little bit of a game stack. If the 76ers can keep this game close enough for long enough, we could really see them be in a spot where we want to be targeting them. And it's worth calling out that Brook Lopez right now, his points and assists is one of the better ones at 12.5. The average sportsbook line would have that set at 13.5. So a little bit of an edge there for the Bucks. But let's look at the Sixers. And yeah, the expectation is that Andre Drummond's going to have a good game. I mean, we'll see. This is a tough matchup for him as well. But really, I'm expecting Maxey to go out and have a great game. I mean, his usage rate with James Harden off the court, with Joel Embiid off the court. I say James Harden. It's obviously Paul George there now. Tobias Harris no longer there as well. Whatever. When it's been him running the show, with all the other kind of studs out, averaged 35% usage rate, 30.7 points, 2.8 rebounds, and 5.5 assists. And so I know the lines are high here, and they're looking at his per 36 production, they're not really off, but if the game stays close, to me, then it is a little bit off. Then we could be targeting him. The one player that I'm actually probably most interested in would be Kelly Oubre Jr. He is someone that also saw a pretty big bump in his usage, averaged 26.5% usage rate with those players off the court, 21.5 points, 6 rebounds, 2.9 assists. And so just doing the math there, he should be able to get the over just on his points and rebounds. Now, Kelly Oubre is extremely hot and cold. That is a big concern. Still, this this seems too low. Again, especially if we were trying to do a little bit of a game stack, that seems like a great spot there. And then another spot I want to talk about is going to be the Pelicans, guys. So the Pelicans could be without DeJounte Murray and also could be without Zion Williamson. Now, we don't know for sure whether or not that's going to happen. If one of them sits, that's going to create a lot of value for Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum like we saw last year. This was actually one of the better spots last year where it never really seemed like the books were truly accounting for the increase in production for Ingram or McCollum, really when one of the big three would sit. Now, obviously, this year they have more of a big four. That's great for them. Honestly, a fun team. But looking at the per 36 production with Brandon Ingram with those players off the court, I mean, he averaged like 32% usage rate, 26.6 points, obviously up from his average points, 5.7 rebounds, and 7.4 assists. So all up there. And honestly, I'm kind of expecting Zion to sit. If DeJounte Murray plays, I don't think that would hurt Ingram immensely. It would hurt him a little bit. Whereas like McCollum, obviously any player can get hot and cold per night, but I think Murray being active would hurt McCollum more than Ingram. But looking at his per 36 production, 23.6 points, 4.7 rebounds, 5.3 assists. So really just averaged more points. And so for me with like Brandon Ingram, I'm happy to do the points, rebounds, and assists. That's about a 50-50 split as it sits right now. Maybe we get lucky and one of those two sit out. Don't love the fact that we are getting lines for Zion and for DeJounte Murray right now. It is worth calling out that there is a 1 PRA difference for Zion right now on PrizePicks, so that does seem to be a little bit too low. That's a decent value that we have as I'm recording this video. And then for me, I'd probably just go with McCollum for over his points, rebounds, and assists, but his points would be fine as well. Not a terrible matchup there against Chicago, I'm assuming. And again, I don't want to do that too much early on in the season. We'll be able to figure out really in about 5 games from now which teams we should really be targeting. And then 2 other spots real quick. So James Harden with the Clippers is in a really good spot for him in terms of usage. Averaged about 30% usage rate in this spot last year with the Clippers. No Westbrook there. Paul George is not there. Kawhi Leonard is out. James Harden's questionable as well, but I'm expecting him to play. And so he averaged 27.5 points. And that'd probably be the one I would want to go with the most would be his over points. Let's just take a peek at the 9-to-5 cheat sheet, seeing if we're getting any other like more favorable bets with Harden, because across the board, it does seem to be like he's not really getting the respect he would deserve. I would say the one bet that I probably disagree with the most, looking at the per 36 production, would be the 8.6 assists. He averaged 8.6 assists per 36, so at 9.5. That seems to be too low. Now, maybe Vegas is saying he's going to play more than 36 minutes. Could happen. I don't want to bet on that. I would rather go probably with the points and rebounds here. Again, this is a 50-50 at 28.5. And so the fact that we're getting this line at 27.5 is already value. And he averaged 27 points per 36 with those players off the court. Add in about 6.3 rebounds, and that's pretty huge. Or just the 5 that PrizePicks currently has him set at. That's a very big edge there. Happy to do that. If you guys are betting on sportsbooks, James Harden over 5.5 rebounds, not a terrible bet there as well. And then the last bet that I like is going to be DeAndre Ayton, really with all of his overs. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of the matchup against the Warriors, but at the same time, not worried about the matchup with the Warriors. Like we do have in his recent game log where he had just went off against the Warriors as well. Obviously, that's last season. Don't care too much about that. The thing with Portland is they lost their best player in Malcolm Brogdon. And also, we did see DeAndre Ayton really step up and play a lot better at the tail end of the season last year. A lot of that just coincided with him getting more minutes. He will say it's due to his bed and getting more acclimated to that, whatever that really meant. I'm like, why wouldn't you have your normal bed shipped to you? If you guys didn't see that news story, Google it. Kind of weird. But he really, down the stretch of the season last year, was great. Averaged around like 21 points, around 13 rebounds, and 2 assists. And so, assuming Portland is good enough to stay in this game for long enough, that was always the issue with Portland. I think DeAndre Ayton is just being disrespected across the board. To me, probably the biggest one would be his points at 16.5. He should be able to crush this. And again, I'm not really too worried about the bigs from the Golden State Warriors. So let's go ahead and get into the bet of the day for this slate. But I do want to show you guys just the overall 9-to-5 PrizePicks board right now in terms of what are the best edges. And so right now, Emmanuel Quickly for under 7.5 assists. I disagree with that. I think that's actually a better sportsbook bet. So, maybe do that there. Scotty Barnes, I think, will get 6 assists. Keontae George for over rebounds and assists. I would love to see him play more. That's a great EV bet that we currently have. If you guys want to make that, you can. I want to see the minutes first. I don't really feel the need to bet on that one. I do like the Nick Claxton for over his points and rebounds. That's one where the data's, I'm agreeing with that assessment of Vegas, and I just like that one a lot. Kevin Durant over 5.5 rebounds is a good one. Andre Drummond for over 11.5 points is a pretty good one there as well. So before we get to the bet of the day, I just want to call out the promo code that's currently going on the 9to5 website. Use the promo code KeepCash. You get 20% off your first 9to5 membership. Take that $10 membership and make it an $8 membership for the first month. You get access to all the tools available on the website: fantasy golf tools, NFL tools, obviously NBA prop tools for PrizePicks and Underdog. Again, should be having a cheat sheet for DFS and really just for general traditional prop betting as well, hopefully tomorrow. But looking at my favorite bets for this slate, again, not exactly going off the board. I think the odds and stuff will be updating throughout the night. I want this to be a video in which you guys will be able to get the most out of, even if you're not watching it right as I post it. But if you guys aren't, hit the notification bell, especially during the NBA. That can really be the difference between you having a very good night or you not having a good night. I'm sure there's plenty of people in the comment section that can tell you that as well, where a bet will get bumped by a point or something, and then the bet barely hits by like a point, and then those people that maybe had a push or just missed, not too happy. Anyways, looking at right now, I do like Aiden in this game. Again, mostly just betting on the minutes being there and maybe Golden State not being the best at defending bigs. Obviously, last year ended the season really well. Hoping that continues. Nick Claxton, I think he's going to get a little bit of a bump with two Brooklyn's bigs being out in terms of minutes. Maybe just, I don't want to say like an extra rotation because he's starting already, but he's not going to lose out on one. Brook Lopez, I like the fact that he's going against Philly, in which Philly's going to be without Joel Embiid. That's huge for him. And then also you look at his production with Chris Middleton off the court. He was highly productive last year in those games. James Harden over 27 points and rebounds. Again, with Kawhi Leonard out, with Paul George no longer there, with Westbrook no longer there. Assuming he's not cold, he should be able to get this over pretty easily. That's the biggest concern, is if he's shooting the basketball well or not. Then Jakob Poeltl as well. The one concern is really the matchup here. Again, with everyone out for Toronto or no longer on the team, assuming that he gets the minutes, which can be a big question, he should be able to get this over. Don't get in foul trouble. Should be a fun night at the very least. And again, I want to call it that we will be getting fantasy score prop bets as well on PrizePicks and Underdog. Those can be some of the biggest ones. Like today, I'm recording this video on Tuesday night. We had a couple where it was like Anthony Davis, his prop line difference between PrizePicks and Underdog was off by 2. Tatum was that for like a quick 20 minutes. So there's little edges there as well. That'll be obviously available tomorrow once the board is updated with those. But that's going to be all for this video, guys. Make sure to leave a like, hit the subscribe button, comment your favorite prop bet. If you guys want access to the tools, head on over to 9to5sports.com. Get access for just $10 a month. Thanks for watching, guys. Good luck. And as always, let's keep cashing.